everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you. It's such an honor. I love you all so much. I just love you, love you, love you. And I want to know what you think about how these deportees are being treated. Have you been watching social media? I have. I've seen some pictures that have horrified me. I came across a report on X earlier this morning, and I saw rows and rows of men in yellow suits sewing. I said, wait a minute, are they using these people as unpaid labor? Then there's another photograph that I saw, and I'd seen it in a few other places, but it struck me. I was able to see it very clearly. The resolution was quite high. Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch, who's been a guest on this show numerous times, these men were stacked one on top of each other, and someone put next to the picture a picture of enslaved Africans in the bottom of a ship. That's what it looked like. They were literally packed into each other, legs spread open, head to back to head to back, head to back. It's something that is shocking, the inhumanity of it all. I was with a friend when I came across it, and she was about to cry. She said, I've never seen anything like this. I just have never seen anything like this. So I want to know what you think about that. You know, many are saying that President Trump has been winning in the popularity polls, right, because of his stance on immigration. Is that what you want? I need you all to talk to me about it. Please stay here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Let's get engaged. Let's talk about this, Bernadette and CLS and Andre and everybody else who's tuning in, Snowman, Robert. Please, I want to hear from you. Please reach out and then thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. That helps us with the algorithm, everybody. Need your help, need your help. Please, please meet me on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show and Friends page on Facebook, X at Santita J, and I'm on Blue Sky. More and more of you, thank you, Ariel, for joining me over there. More and more of you are meeting me on Blue Sky, santitajackson.bsky.social. Just look up Santita Jackson. In that iteration, what do I look like on Blue Sky? I think I look like this. On Facebook, I had big hair. Hey, there you go. That's just what I'm doing. But I want to know what you think about this, because the polls are in. And for all of the controversy surrounding this administration, they're still doing better than Congress, both houses. They're doing better than just about anybody except Bernie Sanders, who remains the most popular elected official in the United States. Thank heavens, there is hope. That having been said, I want to know what your thoughts are. And I wrote, it was like slaves on a slave ship. And these mega prisons are really dehumanizing. And the president of El Salvador is really in the pocket of our administration. And he remarked, and it was not off the cuff to me, that he could build 5 or 6 more. So what kind of deal has been cut here? And again, I'm asking you, is this what you want? Because people, there was a black man some years ago who was walking through Beverly Hills. I think you all might remember this case. He had locks, tall, good-looking man. He was arrested because they wanted to know what was he doing there. Turns out he lived there. Remember Dr. Hinman, Skip Gates? Yeah, when he was in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is a very expensive area, is where Harvard is. He is a fully tenured professor, a man of world renown and acclaim. He needed to prove to the police that it was his house. And who can forget the images, Ariel Gold, of him being arrested at his home? Oh, let's keep on going with this. Think about people who are the dissenters. Think about the Arab American lawyer who was detained at the Detroit airport. He was not born outside of the United States. He's not a naturalized citizen, although that should not matter. He was born in America, made in America, as the Whoopi Goldberg, Ted Danson movies wrote. I mean, hey, he's from here. And now he was detained for 90 minutes. But when you see this picture of these men, it will break your heart. And it ought to unsettle you greatly. Because what we saw there looked like the bowels of a slave ship. And in 2025 in the United States of America, that ought to concern you greatly. I want to hear from you on Blue Sky at santitajackson.bsky.social. I want to hear from you on X at santitaj. I want you to like and share the show. Need you to do that. Bernadette is all. Let me just put you up, hon. Everybody, she's always telling everybody to like and share. It helps us with the algorithm. The Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. So let's get right to it. Because when I sent this out, Ariel said immediately, yes, Professor Emeritus Robert Starks, one of the nation's foremost political scientists and activists. You work both sides of the aisle. But let me start with you, Ariel Gold, Executive Director of the Fellowship of Reconciliation. Because I'm on my way to Reverend Dr. Joan Brown Campbell's service in Cleveland on Saturday. Former secretary, of course, of the World Council of Churches, and really one of the great trees in our freedom forest, if you will. And every time many times, and really for about 30 odd years or so, whenever you would see my father on these rescue missions, you would see this shorter white woman, gray hair, who was regulating and pushing things around, including him. And that was Reverend Dr. Joan Brown Campbell. And she was a powerhouse. And she made her transition at the age of 95. You remember Dr. Campbell, Reverend Dr. Campbell Robert Starks, lived a great life. And her daughter, who is the former mayor of Cleveland, will be hosting all of us, along with their family, on Saturday for the celebration of life, this homegoing. And I can only imagine what she would be saying right now. I'm thinking of some people we have known, who we have been blessed to know. What would they be saying right now about this? So, I mean, Ariel Gold, when you see that picture, what do you think?
You know, when you said, what do we think of this people? What I thought is, we have our better selves and we have our worse selves, right? And so if we think back to the time of slavery, most Americans were just fine with it. The vast majority. And with segregation, just fine with it. And Germans during the Holocaust, and Poles during the Holocaust, just fine with it. And Israelis today in a state of apartheid, just fine with it. And that's what Trump is riding on, right? That is, kind of the strong man. That's the scapegoat, right? Your lives are tough, or we need to keep these people out. And dehumanization of the people, which is what that picture is, just pure dehumanization. They're, lined up like they're not even animals, right? Below animals, right? Like inanimate objects, right? Stacked in as close as can be. That's what fuels these kinds of atrocities. And we have to tap into our better selves, right? Mm-hmm. And we can look to the Pope who passed. We can look to Reverend, and we have to, really be mindful to present that to our larger communities, because it's real easy for the human race to go along with fascist populism and be just fine with the suffering of other people.
But wait a minute, Ariel.
To make sure that it's all of us, that we care about.
But you bring up something that it sounds so crazy, but in real time, we look away from atrocities. We did turn Jewish people away at the Statue of Liberty. Wait a minute. When we knew that they were in trouble, we knew this. Germans said, well, we do have some problems with this group. So, I mean, you hear all, Americans were like, no, look, slavery. Lincoln even said, thank you, Lerone Bennett, enforced to glory. He said, you know what? He really did say it, everybody. If he could have kept slavery in place while preserving the Union, he would have done that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality. So, but before I go to Dr. Starks, what is it about human nature? I'm asking you as someone who is in the church space.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of thinking about. Like, what helps us to tap into our better selves, ourselves that have compassion, that seek to do the work of God, to be God-like, not to build ourselves on top of the backs and suffering of other people. And so what is that quality that gives empathy and inspires people to sacrifice themselves or put themselves at risk for others?
Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. I mean, just that picture was just so, whew, it just Reverend Dr. Hatch remarked about the inhumanity of it all. And I say that as most Americans now want to deport people. I'm like, well, what are you sending them to? Are you serious? And we act as if the overwhelming majority of us are indigenous to the United States. These people are indigenous to this part of the country, this part of the world. This is the hemisphere that they're from. Really, I mean, I don't understand this, but even if they were not, you don't treat people this way. I'm going back to my grandma Tibby, who you knew, Dr. Starks. Mm-hmm. My great grandmother was like, no. What goes around comes around. I think about all these little things that they used to say. And I'm wondering where Americans are. First of all, let me step back. What did you think when you saw that picture?
It almost
words failed you, right?
Because it was so depressing, because I had seen pictures like the slave ships and used it in my classrooms, and it brought back so many memories, because I cannot understand how anybody could do that and then feel absolutely no guilt. And then in today's world, I cannot understand how a president could deport Haitians back to Haiti when Haiti is in absolute turmoil. And it's, they're going to, certainly their lives are in danger. How could you send people back to a place like Venezuela or San Salvador, and the way in which they're being housed in those cruel prisons? I mean, that is absolutely unfathomable. I don't understand it. And I wonder what kind of person is our president. I mean, what kind of person does he love power so much until he would do almost anything to hang on to it? And then you have to question our Supreme Court that told him he has immunity and that he can do anything he wants to do as long as it is shrouded under official as a president. I mean, it's crazy. And then you have a Congress led by the Republicans who are saying absolutely nothing about this. This is crazy. And then you have the Christian nationalists who are saying, oh, it's okay. God has given us the right to do this, and we're going to preserve the country for our people. Forget everybody else.
But these are Christian nationalists, Christian Zionists. These are racists. Period.
Yes.
And they're fascists.
Right.
And they operate under the cover of religion. A lot of people do, and I just
Yeah.
think, oh, this is so horrifying. And I wonder. I mean, and we're complicit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dr. Starks, Ariel, we're complicit in something else. I mean, here we go. And I was listening to this physician who really has a brilliant analysis of people, of the human condition, of how and why we do the things that we do. Dr. Gabor Mate. Have you heard of him?
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
he's brilliant.
He's brilliant. And he was analyzing President Trump. And I'm not making excuses, but I think that, you really do need to understand the inner workings of people. I think it helps you, it makes you more compassionate toward people, whether they have compassion for you or not. That's not my point. And that's not my issue. My mother said, no, your job is what God told you to do. And my father said, keep a clean heart, number one. And then you always be kind. Don't soil yourself with someone else's sickness. And he talked about how
Trump is sick.
well,
Absolutely.
no, he's damaged, but a lot of the country is
Mhm.
because we tolerate this.
Yes.
See, we're in it. Wait a minute. Remember, lynching was an after church activity.
Oh, absolutely.
So we have got some sicknesses here, and you see how quickly a crowd. I don't care what color we are. Some one or two people in the crowd might think that a wrongful act is wrong, but they won't say anything, and they participate in it,
Mhm.
in bullying someone, in lynching someone, in destroying someone's reputation. I mean, we just keep on going with this. But I'm saying, and so most Americans now, according to the polls, feel that these deportations are all right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, but did you see this picture? Does that not bother you? And do you know a lot of people are not bothered by the picture?
They're not bothered by it.
They're not
Absolutely.
bothered.
They're not
Absolutely not. Not bothered.
Well,
And they're saying, get them out of here. Get them out of here. Quick.
Lots of people weren't bothered by the smell of burning flesh coming out of Auschwitz. Lots of people
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
lots of people weren't bothered by slavery, and lots of people went to the lynchings not to watch them for entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And then how could you, as a president of the United States, cut off aid to Africa when, in fact, the people in Sudan are starving to death? Santita, how could you do that? How could you cut off aid to people going into Gaza? I mean, come on. This is
starving them to death.
And
starving them to death. I
we have
mean,
cut off to punish South Africa. We have cut off the pill, a single
Mhm,
pill that
mhm.
prevents HIV from being transmitted from pregnant mother to child.
But in addition to that, Trump has said, we open America to the white South Africans who are being oppressed by the black South Africans. Come on, man. Let's be serious.
No, but it's not just him. Because wait a minute, we've been sneaking white South Africans, into the United States for quite some time. One of the stars in the world, Charlize Theron, is here, and she has a murder of a parent in her background.
Okay.
Okay. Oh yeah. I'll furrow your brow. They've been. We brought Nazis here. We didn't send them to the world. We didn't send them to the Hague. We brought them to the United States so they can help bolster our space
Scientific,
program.
right?
Exactly. Hey, how do you? And then we sent them throughout South and Central America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We didn't persecute everybody.
Right.
The best and the brightest minds, if you will, at least the people who are allegedly of great intellect, have low moral thresholds, but they've got great intellect. We brought them here.
Mm-hmm.
Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying it boggles the mind, and I'm seeing that people are not reacting to this, and I'm wondering where we're going to go with this.
Right. Well, Elon Musk is sanctioning the rise of neo-fascism in Germany. He writes, letters to the leaders of the neo-Nazis in Germany and saying, go ahead, do what you want to do. I'm supporting you. But please remember, Elon Musk was born and raised in South Africa under apartheid. And he is showing that quite vividly as the head of what they call it. What do they call it? I mean,
I don't know. Doge.
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 Go.
But see, beyond Elon Musk, beyond Trump, there is a policy that is driving this that is impersonal. They're the personages. They're impersonating, if you will. They are occupying this space.
But what do we do about it?
Well, that's my first of all. I'm wondering where's our humanity, because I'm not seeing a hue and cry. I'm not seeing any outrage about these people they're being put in work camps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But first, they're being broken as human beings. Ariel?
It's that othering, right? It's them that it's happening to, and it's the them versus the us. And I don't know what quality it is that enables folks to break through that.
Mm-hmm.
But we do know this is one of the first protests I went to. The first time I was arrested when I was 16, Nevada nuclear test site, and it was called the 100th monkey protest, because there's this practice in science that if all the monkeys are eating their fruit dirty, and they teach one monkey how to wash the fruit or how to peel the banana and not eat through the skin, and then they have to teach the next monkey. And somehow when you get to, there's a magic number, and they call it the 100th monkey, all of a sudden everybody's doing it. And I think it's a bit that way with humanity as well. We need it to trend, right? What's that magic number that makes it trend, that makes that hashtag trend, that moves us towards recognizing the humanity in each other?
Well, the question I have is, if in 2026 we get a turnaround in the Congress and Democrats are ruling, would things change?
That's my question. I know you get upset with me when I ask that question. I mean,
would the Democrats reverse the whole notion of banning DEI? I don't know.
Or will they, be like, we always wanted border security.
Exactly.
I don't see. I mean, slowly but surely, Congressman Jonathan Jackson and Congressman Cleo Fields are gaining members of their DEI caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Good.
Slowly, but did you hear what I said? I prefaced it with slowly but surely. I mean, that's all. All I'm saying is there's like an empathy chip missing here, and I think that when Dr. King talked about our morals, we need to check that, because while we're focusing on Trump, when I was listening to Dr. Gabor Mate, and I encourage all of you, and I'll put it in the chat, to look him up. He is absolutely brilliant. And I think he's a man of tremendous compassion and wisdom. He's got a great intellect. That's great. More than that, he's wise. More than that. When he described Donald Trump as he understands him clinically, he said, when you look at his family life, he was because he had a brother who drank himself to death.
Yes.
That indicates that there is some not just profound dysfunction and pain in that family. And I don't, that is not funny to me. That is something that's very painful. But that kind of brokenness is something clearly that resonates with too many of us. That's my point. And I think we need to look at that. Why would, because there's something else that is broken, because a lot of us are far too are far too lacking in compassion when it comes to these migrants, these people. You've seen it, we've all seen it.
Well, Santita, what I have been puzzling my brain out with is how could women, especially young women, white, black, brown, and young black, brown, and white young men vote for Trump when in fact the 2025 project was right there in blazing colors saying we want to keep abortions, ban abortions. We want to make sure that women do not hold these major jobs because they are part of the anti-DEI system. Remember the first thing that Trump said when they had the crash in Washington? He said, "Was that a DEI pilot?" I mean, come on now. And of course, one of the pilots was a woman, and he said, "Well, that may be the reason why it crashed." I mean, how could you? I mean,
Look at
I don't understand.
look at his background, because guess what? He had company. That's my point. He had
Okay,
people who said, and he did not shape their opinions. He was speaking their opinions.
okay, okay,
He's not shaped the culture. He's reflected it.
Yep.
okay, okay.
Harnessed it.
Absolutely. I mean, he's run on it. And we have to be, and and all of these presidential candidates have played racial games. They have. Bill
Mhm.
Clinton, in the middle of his campaign, did not have any reason to go home and execute Ricky Ray Rector, who had the mental capacity of someone who was not 5 years of age. But he was making a point because Jesse Jackson was not running, and he was going to get Jesse Jackson and all these folks who were rainbowing straight.
Mhm.
But that's the reality. Carter talked about ethnic purity. Obama went to a black church on Father's Day and tore up black fathers.
Mhm.
No. I mean, as the daughter of a black father, that was profoundly offensive to me, and it was very hurtful. And I saw the hurt on my father's face that day.
Of course, of course.
So because when you talk about fathers being irresponsible and not being present, it is offensive to me because I was born to my parents when they were in college,
Mhm.
and I never ever felt unwelcome. My father had to get a job. He waited tables. And all I ever heard all my life was that I was the best thing that ever happened to him. What a blessing you are. That's all. On my worst days, he's made me feel like I was the best thing that ever happened to him. So yeah, I was offended on that day. I was profoundly offended. But my point is, they've all played these racial games. They all play them. But it doesn't have to be racial. It could be some other class game. But you don't stack up men like they are in the bow of a ship, a slave ship, Attorney C.K. Hoffman. You don't do that. Now, before I bring you back in, when are you going to be on Court TV?
I'm going to be on Court TV next week. Next week. I can't give you.
Well, we just want to be clear. She is on Court TV. She's chair of Rainbow Push and the former president of the National Bar Association. And I just had to bring you on. I have to tell you, I was going to talk about something else today.
Okay.
When I saw that picture, I was so stunned. And I don't really stay on Facebook the way a lot of people do. I've had to stay on it a little bit more because I lost a very dear friend. Sending much love to Dewey Standard from Howard University, Mr. Omega Sci-Fi, someone I've known more than 40 years. He made his transition, and it's sent a shockwave through the Howard University community. And I want to send Dewey's family all of my love today. He's just been part of my life, all of my adult life. Well, moving into my adult life. I met him when I was 17. And so just heartbreaking. And so I've been on Facebook responding to folks, because that's not something that I do. But in the course of that, I said all that to say that in the course of that, I bumped into this picture.
Mhm.
And I married that to a story that I came across earlier today on X, where this young man, young white fellow, was touring one of the mega prisons where they have a warehouse sized room, it appears, of sewing machines, and they have the prisoners working.
Mhm.
I mean, something about this stinks too high heaven, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. This just, we're deporting people without due process. What does it mean legally for someone not to have due process?
Well, what that does mean, Santita, when you don't have due process, that means that typically the Constitution guarantees rights to people, even if you are a foreign national, that there is a process by which, even if you are deported, that you go through. There's paperwork, there's a process, and that is called due process because the Constitution doesn't guarantee certain rights to individuals who reach U.S. territory. Now, when you are, I cannot say that based on the photographs, I mean, that photograph is reminiscent, of course, of slavery.
Mhm.
That could have been a photograph where we were transported from Goree Island to the US, or what it was like when we landed in the 1700s or before. That's what that picture is reminiscent of. But it smacks of a violation of human rights. So when there's no due process, even when you're at war, there is due process. There are protocols in place to ensure that there are human rights that are observed. International conventions that guarantee theoretically the rights of persons, whether you're being deported, whether you're being transported. And it seems to me as though, based on what I've seen in this picture, there's a violation of the human rights of those persons that are being deported. I don't know anything about what they've been convicted of, what they've done, and whether they should have been here in this country legally or not. I have no idea of that. I've not looked at their documentation. I can't really speak to the merits of how they were identified to be deported in that condition. But being deported in that condition some would equate to war crimes. I mean, we don't even have, other than slavery, other than the internment of the internment camps that Japanese Americans were put in, we don't have a perspective in this country of deporting or importing people in that manner, because it smacks afoul of the Constitution. It smacks afoul, really, of probably some state laws as well. But these are undoubtedly persons that are being deported under federal statutes. So when there is a violation of due process, Santita, that means that the laws that are in place to protect, even when you are in this country illegally, allegedly, that there's certain protocols that must be followed in order for you to be deported. And I'm not aware of any protocols that would allow human beings to be deported in that way. I'm really not even aware of any protocols that would allow animals to be transported in that way. Because here, if dogs were put in that condition, and there would be a lawsuit immediately to protect the rights of the dogs. So this is a first impression for me, and I think it should be very troubling to every single person. Doesn't matter if you're in this country illegally or if you're an undocumented person. This should be very troubling to you. It should be troubling to you if you're an American citizen, because that could be you. If there's a determination made by this administration or any policy that is implemented or an executive order that would allow convicted people who are convicted of a violent crime, which is the current discussion, to be deported, then this could be a fate that anyone could have. We know that the jail is filled with people who are falsely accused and falsely convicted. But I'm less concerned about, I don't even reach that argument. It's just the conditions of deportation. We don't even get to where they're being deported to, the conditions of deportation.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of that being a precedent in this country where we deport people in those conditions.
Well, what do you think the Supreme Court will say about this? Because it's moving to the Supreme Court.
I think if it escalates up to the Supreme Court, depending upon what issue they are determining, because, The Supreme Court, crafty lawyers will craft the issue before the U.S. Supreme Court in a way where they would make a determination that would appear that they are sanctioning this type of deportation. We have a very conservative U.S. Supreme Court at this point, but I think even for conservative justices, this would shock the conscience, and I think it would certainly appear to be, quote unquote, un-American. This is not what we expect to ever see in this country. We never expected to see it during slavery, but it happened during slavery. That was a worldwide financial phenomenon that happened. We haven't seen this type of a government action, at least not in my lifetime, at least not to my knowledge. So what do I think the U.S. Supreme Court will say? It depends on the issue squarely before the U.S. Supreme Court, if they accept cert, which I bet they probably would. And but I think even a conservative court would take exception to human beings, regardless of their nationality, of their documented status in the U.S., being deported under these conditions and circumstances.
Well, I hope you're right. Absolutely. But Clarence Thomas and Alito are two very, very strange people.
Well, they're just, to the right of Attila the Hun. I've never seen anything. Well, I have. No, really. And what they're doing to me is so dangerous. That's what's happening now is very dangerous. Black people routinely have been told to go back to Africa into 2025. You can walk down any street, and particularly, and that was my experience when I moved to the East Coast. People wanted to know what you were. I knew you've had an attorney, C.K. Hoffler. And I know, Robert Stark, people assume that we're many things.
Yes.
Well, when we go out. And then they stop an Arab American lawyer who's returning from vacation. A friend of mine is about to leave the country and come back. At least she was. And she said, you know what? I think I'm going to hold tight. I said, yeah, I think you should, because if you leave, you might not be able to get back in.
Mm-hmm.
You did support Kamala Harris. You were a big supporter. Big money. I don't know. This is crazy. But and so you've got that, but you've got Solomon. I don't think these pictures are fake. We've seen more than one picture like this. And that is designed to dehumanize. And no, I'm not going to say that the Obamas are over politically. No. When I criticize them, it's because I have high hopes for them still. I want them to be able to contribute. I know how new they are to this space. My parents have been in this space 60 years. It's not as easy as it looks. And I know that when you've been lifted up as high as they've been lifted up, you have a responsibility to do some things that they're not doing. And so I'm going to continue to push because I care until they do those things, because we need them. We delivered them to the White House. Now I need them to deliver now that they're out of it. It's just that simple. And it's not just Black people, Ariel. It's everybody. Everybody had, what did they say? High hopes. We got high hopes. A high apple pie in the sky hopes. Come on now. You got it. So I'm not going to say that. And Solomon says Solomon reflects a thinking that a lot of people have. Ariel, Dr. Starks, and Attorney C.K. Hoffler. He said these are criminals and viewed as terrorists. So does this mean if they are criminals, if they are terrorists, and many of them are not?
True.
Should they be treated this way, CK, legally? I think you're muted. Oh, okay.
My apologies. Yeah, I want to go back to, we want to bring out the better angels in people. And we do need the Obamas right now. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And their coming into office was a hope for this country. And dear God, do we need some hope again right now, and a little bit of sanity. It's going to get much worse. I hate to say it, but it's going to get much worse. We aren't
Why
even
do
at
you say that?
100 days of this administration, and we're watching this.
But why do you say it's good? Why do you say I've never heard you speak with that kind of certitude about this?
Well, just because it's so early in this time period, and we do not have, I mean, look, with the Democrats, Jeffries and Schumer are nowhere to be found useful. And we're not even 100 days into this administration, and we've already got what we're getting. I think we need to come together and really be realistic about
What we're looking at.
what we're looking at. It's bad. It's really bad.
You know, because so many people, CK, I was saying before you got on here, President Trump's numbers have been boosted, and they stay relatively high. I mean, he's more popular than both houses of Congress, for example, because of his handling of the illegal immigrants, because of how he's handled deportation. That's something that's very unsettling to me, because when I see, every time I see them, whether they're being marched off the planes, they're being dehumanized.
Mm-hmm.
And then we won't bring Mr. Garcia home.
And let's not forget that the Democrats, that the Democratic platform was trying its best to mirror the Republican platform on immigration during the presidential election.
Yeah.
I mean, God bless Chris Van Hollen. We do have a few people, and Bernie Sanders and AOC, who are fighting, but a lot of our Democrat elected officials are not.
Well,
and we're out in the streets protesting. We need to be protesting them. Do your job. We elected you. I don't want to be the only one putting my body on the line, getting arrested on Good Friday like I just did. I want to see my elected officials doing everything possible in this moment.
they need to be, but too few of them are. I mean, just what about the legal recourse, Attorney Hoffler? I mean, what could be done?
Well, I think a lot of the people who are being deported probably don't have legal counsel. And
when you say they don't have, and so how could they request it? I mean, they haven't even gotten to the process.
I don't know what. I feel like I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because I really don't know how we got to this point, This is a process that's been going on for a while for them to deport them in this condition. So I don't have enough information, Santita, despite my research, to be able to give you thoughts on how it got to this point. But typically, even in a deportation situation, there's due process. You have to go before somebody, an authority that would have to declare you something. You have to be declared, and that you would be eligible for deportation. And typically you're entitled to have legal counsel if you can afford to have legal counsel. And I don't know if in the immigration courts now, because the rules have changed, it's my understanding that a lot of the immigration judges are just, doing whatever they can to maintain their jobs because they are in appointed positions. So, and they're appointed by the administration. So they are feeling that they are under pressure. So I don't know if this is being rubber stamped, and that would be a form of due process, quote unquote, Santita, but it seems like there's a lack of humanity in how this is happening. But more importantly, the way that the people are stacked for transport and delivery to where they're being deported, let's assume best case scenario in the sense that for the US government, that they've had due process and they are properly positioned to be deported. The conditions of their deportation, I believe, are what caused me a great deal of concern from a human rights standpoint. So it's the conditions. I don't have enough information to say whether the 1,000 men that I see there, they appear to be mostly Latino, but I can't tell for certain because, all of us could look like we're Latinos, so you can't really just judge by what we're seeing. But whether they are appropriately, if they have been appropriately detained for criminal activity, and are people who, no matter what, even if they were properly represented, would be eligible for deportation. If we assume they were eligible for deportation, my strong concern is the manner in which they are being deported as persons who maybe they were, I don't know if they were prisoners before, if they were in jails and county jails, or if they were in prisons and being identified for deportation. I'm not certain which it is. And I know that there are a lot of people, for instance, I've had conversations with people who are Latino initially, who felt that it was a good thing to deport people who were involved in criminal activity in gangs and everything like that, who are not in this country legally, because they felt that hurt them, who were working productively in this country, if they were there and sucking up the air because of their illegal activities. Unfortunately, what is happening is you have people who are here also in this country legally, who have work visas, who have student visas, who are here, just like the young man who's in El Salvador and who can't come back, who even may have citizenship, maybe permanent residence, may have a green card, may have a legitimately strong basis for being in this country, who are also being deported. So I don't know if they're amongst that group of people, but either way, there is a lack of humanity that I am observing, and that is of grave concern to me. I can't speak to the merits of each and every person because I don't have any of the paperwork that I'd be able to examine or analyze, Santita, to be able to say whether they're getting a fair shot or not. But it just reeks of inhumanity.
Well, it unsettles me that, to fully disclose, you're my lawyer. You're my father's lawyer. You're my mother's lawyer. I mean, she covers the whole family. She's brilliant and highly ethical. The fact that you're not able to get that kind of information, as skilled as you are, Ariel, that's frightening. What are these people doing? And see, the thing is, I don't want it to have to. He already talked about looking for the homegrowns.
And the homegrowns, to me, that's code for Black people. That's also code for homeless people. That's code for anyone who is not perceived as a desirable in this country.
Wait,
and right about now,
that's Medea Benjamin. Wait, because they're not going to stop. That's, to me, they're not going to stop at the ACLU.
No, they're not going to stop at that.
They're not going to stop.
It's the undesirables that are next, and then it becomes the dissidents.
It's just, I mean,
and undesirables could be quote unquote dissidents. I mean, when you say undesirables, that's a very, very subjective title, and that could just be anyone who disagrees. That could be anyone. I mean, what we have to realize is lawyers who are in a position to defend or present representation to some of the persons that are more than likely deported have also been targeted. So when you have a legal system and structure, beginning with legal counsel, who, if they are if they are opposed to the administration's policies, legal counsel, if they're representing people and in their representation of people pose or have a different view of whether there's been due process, they could be targeted, or they are being targeted. Law firms that have heretofore represented or teamed up or stood in solidarity with the ACLU, the NAA Legal Defense Fund, other organizations that have routinely brought litigation, and they always join forces, or a lot of times they join forces with other law firms, big law. Those firms have been have found that they were compelled, many of them, not all of them, but many of them, to enter into agreements with the administration and agreeing to represent the administration.
Wait. You need to explain to me how that works. I know we have like 5 or 6 minutes left here, but I don't understand that.
Well, it happened. It has happened there, and I have the list of it. It changes every week, of law firms, big law, mostly big law firms, who were targeted by the administration, and who for bringing litigation that the administration felt was against the administration. So there hundreds of lawsuits that were brought by these firms. And there are also lawsuits brought by a number of organizations. This is always the case. It's part of what happens in this country. And on behalf of individuals, on behalf of people who are wronged, on behalf of people who have immigration issues, on behalf of a number of issues that the administration feels or takes exception to. Those firms, large firms, have been targeted, and many of them have entered into agreements. And when they have, let's say, 130 million set aside for pro bono work, they have set aside their pro bono monies to work for the administration and for causes that are important to the administration. How does that happen? When there's pressure, when you're being targeted, and your clients are looking around and saying, well, you can't represent me, we can't stay with you, you're being targeted by the administration. And it can cause financial ruin for those firms and for the lawyers that are within those firms. So many firms, not just a few, many firms, the majority of big law, have either entered into agreements with the administration to provide their pro bono services for them and not do work, civil rights, human rights work like they were doing before, or they're another group that preemptively entered into agreements with the administration, seeing this coming in the handwriting on the wall. And there are some firms that have resisted and that have been targeted. So this is not speculation. This is actually what has happened. So Santita, when we're saying, do they have representation where there's due process? We can't answer that because I believe a lot of the lawyers who would be representing them are not able to represent them because they might be at firms that have entered into agreements with the administration. So we are facing a crisis just in the legal industry. That doesn't mean all law firms. There are many law firms that are doing a lot of this work, but a lot of a large grouping of big law firms that had big resources are no longer in that posture because they've entered into agreements with the administration.
Well, you know what? The good news is this. I know you're
We need some good news right now. Go, Santita.
The good news is this. A lot of things that have happened under the cover of darkness are now being brought into the light.
Yes.
As awful as this is, a lot of things have happened in a clandestine way. Now it's being revealed. Now the question is, as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King asked us almost 60 years ago, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? What do you want? Are we going to sit up in the house and let it burn us all up, or are we going to be the fire persons who are going to pull out the hoses and put out the fire? What are we going to do? I mean, you ought to be concerned about people being deported because that's you too. That's when you, Skip Gates, are trying to get into your house in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and they can't believe that you, black man, live there. They don't know who you are. They don't even care. They don't, please. And guess what? And that ought to be, yeah, that's you, Medea, who goes up to the hill and regularly speaks truth to power. Really. It does not stop, everybody. It doesn't stop. Black and brown people are the most vulnerable people right now. Palestinian kids are the most vulnerable. It won't stop there. They're not going to stop at these young Jewish kids who are protesting. They're not going to stop. It's just going to hemorrhage. Now, what do you want? What kind of country do you want? I just want to know. That's where I see this going. I mean, it's just like, okay, the black and Palestinian kids up at Harvard and at NYU, yeah, they're taking the hits first. Guess what? That's in the daytime. And wait another day. Everybody else is going to get hit. What kind of country do we want?
I think, Santita, these are the questions that people are asking themselves right now. And I think a lot of people don't quite know how to handle this, what they're going to do, because quite frankly, it's not just black and brown people who are suffering. It's the entire country that's suffering.
It's everybody.
Everyone is suffering. So people are suffering in different ways that they didn't expect to be suffering at this point. And I think it's being removed from, this is no longer a partisan issue. These are not partisan discussions. These are human rights discussions. These are just, American discussions. They're not partisan, Democrats, Republicans. They really aren't. One may be disappointed by what our representatives are doing or not doing. are the ones that we elected them to do certain things. One could be disappointed, but the discussions that are happening and things are evolving on a daily basis are not partisan discussions because we're all being impacted.
Well, maybe where Dr. King said he wanted us to be. Well, we start judging not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Who are we? We're still racist, yeah, I get it. But now more and more of us are asking questions about our character. And I want us to do that. I think we've got to make a decision, everybody. We've got to take a hard look. Because watching those men lined up looking like they were in the bowels of a slave ship in 2025 broke my heart.
And it should break everybody's heart.
It really should. This is not a partisan issue. This is a human,
Right.
this is a life issue because we can no longer afford to say, oh, that's that group. It could be your child, your nephew, your godson, your neighbor. It could be anyone who could be mistakenly picked up. And then what do you do?
Oh, ladies, I always love speaking with you. I'm going to give each of you a minute to close us out. And I'm just glad we've had this time together. I'm sounding like Carol Burnett. Oh, help me. I love her. Yeah, I do.
Well, if I could go first, I do have to run to another meeting. I just got an email about, but
And thank you for sharing.
But I
You know
told them
I
I have to be on Santita. I have something that I must do. But Santita, we have been here before. Perhaps it's shocking to think that, but I have to believe that your father 50 and 60 years ago, your mother 50 and 60 years ago were feeling some kind of way about what they were doing. I have to believe that Dr. King was feeling some kind of way when he knew that there was a good chance that he would not make it.
Oh, he knew it.
He knew it. So I say all this to say that this is life, I believe, and is cyclical in what we see. But there are some new things that we're seeing here that we haven't seen in my lifetime. We haven't seen these kinds of pictures. Now, maybe it was happening and we just didn't know about it. When we were protesting South African embassy, we were protesting so that this would stop in another country. We just didn't see it happening in this country at this time in our lifetime. That's the difference. So I think it's going to be, and what is happening is people are turning to community, to religious community, to faith centers, no matter what your faith and religion is, and looking for assistance, looking for guidance, because I think a lot of people are disappointed with the elected leadership at this moment. That may not last, and not all of them, because of course we've got Congressman Jonathan Jackson and many others like him that are doing extraordinary work at extraordinary times with extraordinary risk, which calls for extraordinary courage. But on a day-to-day level, and Santita, with my show and things that I'm seeing happening in the Atlanta area, people are turning more to community to try to figure out what the solution is, because they may not even get this picture. They can't live, they can't survive, and they're talking about basic survival and concerns about them and their loved ones being picked up and being deported. Because whenever you announce that one is contemplating this and thinking through an analysis, it's going to happen at some point on some level.
Ariel Gold?
Yeah, I'll just, I was thinking about last Friday with 24 other folks. We blocked the entrance to Lockheed Martin outside of Philadelphia for Good Friday during Passover, and got arrested and all of that. And as we were doing that, one of the things we were talking about was our action going to bring about any concrete change in the foreseeable future? Nope, it was not. But we did that anyway in prayer, because we won't let this world change us.
Amen. And there you have it. My sisters, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, had to run to a meeting. Ariel Gold, who has to go run and celebrate with her son who has a job.
Job!
In this crazy, crazy market, he got a job. And we're so proud of him and so excited for the future that he is building in law. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And thank you for his sister, who's the thrifty example. I'm sending you all so much love. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me, Evangelist Jackson and Gary and Andre, all of you. You know I love you so much. With all my heart, I want to thank you for allowing me to share some time with you. You don't have to do that, Solomon and Robert and just all of you. And I thank you, Carol. Just agree, disagree. I'm glad that we're all together. I really am. I just want you to know that. I love you all so much. Have a good night. God bless you, or have a good day. That's right. Have a good day. And I'll see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota.